to the front half of the room, and then people that are over 30 move to the back half of the room. Oh, you're in the back. No. All right, so my name's Tanya. This is a town hall for young people tonight. The group that's holding this on is Insight. Insight is our organization. The goal of this is to get some input from people that are young on what they think the relationship is and should be between the community and the police. It's mostly, we're here to listen to young people. Some of our questions will be for both though. I'll specify. We are recording this, so I hope none of you mind that. But we have some rules set in place. Each question that we ask, your answers have to be 2 minutes, and we will stop you, let you know when you hit 30 seconds and 10 seconds, and stop you from finishing if you are not done within 2 minutes. Also, if you're over 30, we will stop you from answering any questions if you guys speak out of line or if you, try to interrupt or anything, because this is mostly to be listening to young people. We want to hear their voices today. We do have one question. The first one is going to be including everybody. We're going to ask your experiences, so anybody at any age can answer this question. The moderators up here today is Miley. She's with Answer Sacramento. And then the timer here is Sarah. She's with Bay Area for Burning. And then Keon, he's with Insight. And Kevin, he's with Insight. They will be the ones that will tell you when your time is up and so forth. And our facilitator today is Kylor, and he's with us. He's going to be the ones asking you the questions.
The first question is going to be, what is your experience with law enforcement? What is your first experience with law enforcement? What's your experience? My first real experience with law enforcement was a negative one. When I was younger, I was what would be classified, I guess, as a troubled youth, a troublemaker, not such a great person at all the times. Actually, my mom, because she was scared I was going to end up going to jail, had sent me to the police station in Del Paso Heights and had me sit down and talk with a couple different police officers. The police officer asked me if I was scared of going to jail or if I wanted to go to jail with my life, because that's where I was headed. I told him I wasn't scared of going to jail. At that time, I was 12. I'm 20 now. My answer hasn't changed, whether yes or no I'm scared of going to jail. But the fact of the matter is, it's changed in the fact that I've grown up and I wouldn't want to go to jail for something stupid, such as stealing from a store, something like that. However, I would be okay with going to jail if it meant I was sticking up for somebody, which has been done before on my behalf, and I had to pay fines, so that's another story. The floor is open to you guys.
Anybody else have any experiences, good or bad, with law enforcement that you want to share? Anybody. Doesn't matter how old you are.
Sure. About 16. My sister had lived where we grew up at, Merced County, about 3 counties south. And back in those days, they had community policing. So the cops was always in the neighborhood, but they didn't live in the neighborhood. So I went to visit my younger sister in public housing, where we used to play when we were kids before it was built up. And when I was a kid, we used to go across the street to the church, Mr. Word's church, or the gospel church. My grandpa was a Baptist minister, so we used to go out to different churches and stuff. So I went over there, and Mr. Word would always put a message, what he was going to preach on the Sunday. So I went across the street, went to read it, and I heard a car roll up behind me. And I'm like, okay, we'll just let it pass, you know. So it didn't go by. So I'm like, oh man. So I turned around real slow, and it was a cop. So I said, okay, he seen me, he sees I see him, so I get in the corner, start getting, I put two steps into the street, the cop rolled right in front of me. If I hadn't stopped, he would have hit me. You know, gave me the rundown, where you going, where you coming from. I said, well, you know who I was. My family been living in this house 40 plus years. And you would know who my family is, and I'm going right to my sister's house. You know, where's your ID? We got a description like somebody like you, the neighborhood, blah, blah, blah. While he's talking at me, over the radio comes the description of the person I'm looking for. 5'10", at that time I was about 5'5". Look at me, I'm skinny, never been bigger than this, the biggest I've ever been. He's like 150, 160 pounds. And I'm like, and then they say, it's like four streets away. And you have to go all the way around this other street just to get to, the other street. So, and I said, oh, so I look like the description, the person you're looking for, huh? And I knew not to backtalk, but I was just tired and frustrated with that. So, it's nothing new, you know. End up in jail just for being in the wrong place at the wrong time. So, I'm sorry to say it's still going on.
Yeah.
That's my piece.
Anybody else?
My first memorable interaction with the police wasn't a good one. I was 10. Police came to the house where we were staying at the time for some other business, and myself and my brother, I remember we was in the backyard playing. It was like, the police is here, the police is here. There was a lot of them. And we didn't believe them. And I come running up the hill. And as we coming up, the police literally, at this time I couldn't have been no more than 10, maybe 9. And my brother was a year younger than me, and they literally pulled guns out and put it to our heads. So that's my first memorable interaction with police, and that's been my stance on one reason why I didn't like the police from day one of my medical advice, my views, and things of that nature. But that's my first memorable interaction with the police.
My most memorable interaction with the police has been probably just recently. I was an activist, so one night I came home from work and I saw that the police had been at my house for the 3rd time trying to question me, although I had said before that I don't want to talk to you. So then 6 officers came to my home and said they were here to arrest me, and me and my mother asked why, and they said for lynching, and I said, what? Seriously? We're going to arrest like a black woman for lynching? And they said, yes, that means you were pulling away a protester from our custody, so we're going to charge you with lynching, let's go. My mom asked, do you have a warrant? They said, it's 2015, we don't need a warrant, pushed her out of the way. They put me in the car, then right before I got into the jail, they asked me why I didn't trust police officers, and I gave a couple examples, you know, Mike Brown, Eric Garner, John Crawford III, Andy Lopez. And they said, the judge just wants to talk to you in the morning, you know, you can trust us, we're not gonna do anything bad, the judge just wants to talk to you, we're not really gonna charge you. And then, from then on,
Anybody else want to tell an account?
Fort Worth, Texas. My brother, his car got stolen. Cops found it about 4 days later. They didn't take the car off the stolen vehicle register list. And so we pulled into a gas station, me, my brother, my cousin, and my brother's wife. As we're pulling out, they surround the vehicle with guns drawn. Made us get out, lie on the ground, put some handcuffs. It took them about 40 minutes for us to convince them to like run the information to see that, you know, this was in fact my brother's car and that you guys were the ones that found the car. But that's just another example of how easily a situation with a young black youth can escalate into something. Because they had no reason to even search the car, to run the license plates.
Anybody else? Good ones, bad ones, it could be any kind of experience.
Well, I'm me myself, I would like to direct this to basically young people, and actually I guess it would be all of us. You know, that is that we need to understand the significance of dealing with the authorities. Okay? So, looking at the fact that they are the authorities.
Did you have an experience at all? Or
Huh?
did you have an experience that you wanted to share? Or?
Well, no, like you said, Dave, I mean, you know, well, not my experience, I mean, basically personally.
Yeah.
Like I said, I just wanted to best my comments, I mean, basically young people, because.
Yeah, we're gonna avoid that today.
Huh?
We're gonna avoid, giving any type of comments that direct what young people should do to be treated correct by the police.
Okay, but I thought you said, I mean, this was supposed to be young people's right.
No, this is for them to be heard.
Right.
So
Okay.
we want young people to explain their experiences, what their ideas are for how they think the community relationship with police should look like, what ideas they have to fix the problem. There's a lot of town halls and programs out there right now where they're telling young people what they need to be doing to fix the problem with police killing them. And this organization feels really strongly about making sure that they know that they shouldn't be killed no matter what.
You're right, and this is the comment I mean, that I was going to make when you straight through that.
Okay, sorry. I'm asking for experiences, like any experience in particular that you had, either good or bad, with the law enforcement that you want to share.
Oh, this might seem kind of out of the ordinary, but I'd just like to share that I have positive experiences with law enforcement whenever I'm by myself. I get away with speeding, changing lanes with no signal. I'm shocked by it because whenever I'm with my kids, or now that the police know me because my kids are speaking out against the discrimination that happens, the experience is completely opposite. So there's no doubt in my mind that it goes on every single day, all the time. And they invaded my home because my daughter decided to speak out against it. So I know that it's discrimination, it's racial, it's class also, but it's definitely, Black youths are targeted, and there's no doubt in my mind, because there's a stark contrast to when I'm by myself and when I'm with my kids, or when we're speaking out against it.
Anybody else? The question is if you've had any experiences, good or bad, with any law enforcement. You want to share it?
I was with my stepbrother, and we had our BB guns, and we were shooting them in a yard where there wasn't anyone to harm or anything. We were just shooting them to open field, and then we were walking back with them, and then they came, and then we started walking, and then they turned around and turned on their sirens, and then they said drop the weapons. We come down on our knees, and then they pulled the gun out on us.
He was 11.
This is after you put it down.
Yeah, and he was 11 at the time. You know, they got my son on his knees in tears. The cop, I'm livid, and the cop was just like, well, you need to tell your son I had every right to shoot him in the back.
In the back.
Yeah, I said, first of all, you never have a right to shoot anybody in the back. He goes, I'm going home to my family tonight. You know? But, you know, I remind them of that all the time, because they're 11, and you're a lot smaller. Was 15 and a lot bigger. So that's how they felt about you at 11. You can only imagine how they feel about you at 15. I teach mine the reality of the situation. I want mine to come home at night. That's my whole thing. You know what I'm saying?
You want to say something, Shereen?
Yeah, it's really odd because when I was growing up, the same thing with the police was going on. We had NWA, people letting us be aware of what was going on, but it didn't happen to me. I lived up at 29th in what's called Meadowview. So I was in the hood, so called. But I had a twin brother. So the profiling and the being treated, you know, how we're being treated today was my brother, twin brother. He dealt with that. But I sped, like how you said, ma'am, I sped, I got pulled over, I would have the worst attitude. I would talk to them so disrespectfully, and they just would kind of sit there and like, you know what I mean? I didn't get tickets, I got pulled over without a license. And then even the other day, unfortunately, I ran out of gas, and I called 911, and the police officer came. I said, I need you to send a police officer right now. He came way too Morse and Marconi, and came and got me. First he was gonna push the car, and then he said, you know what, I don't wanna mess your car up. Took me to the car, bought a gas tank, filled it, you know, with gas, put some gas in it, and then followed me to the gas station to put $10 in there. So, I don't know, you know what I mean? I think it's all about the individual, and it's really hard for me, because I know as a person that I'm different than a lot of other people, just like me.
So for those of you that came in late, the answers are to 2 minutes. She's timing, so you'll be notified when you have 30 seconds left and 10 seconds left. We want to hear from, that question that we just asked was geared to everybody, but from here forward, except for our show of hands questions, but from here forward, we just want to hear from people that are under 30 years old.
All right, by a show of hands, how many people have had some kind of experience with law enforcement?
What was the question?
If you've ever had any experience with law enforcement, that have ever had an interaction with them, good or bad? All right, by a show of hands, how many of you have ever had a good experience with law enforcement?
Can't really define good.
How would you define good?
I like what you say, just them doing their job or something, they went above and beyond.
Where they do something that's good for you.
But not necessarily just their job.
Not just their job, but actually helping you out. That's what good is, yeah.
Yeah, it's just doing your job.
Yeah, but they're supposed to be good anyway, but where they actually save the day. Any show of hands?
By a show of hands, how many of you had a bad experience with the law? Right. By a show of hands, how many of you have a family member or a friend who's in law enforcement? Yes.
The police?
Like the police or a lawyer or
Correctional officer and lawyer.
Not like police, sheriff, correctional officer, Department of Homeland Security.
Somebody with a badge and a gun.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. And by a show of hands, how many of you would want to be in law enforcement of some form or another?
Could you repeat that question?
By a show of hands, how many of you would want to be in law enforcement by some form or another?
Yeah.
All right. And these next questions are going to be for the youth to answer. Can anyone give us an experience with law enforcement that you've had? You're right. This is the first question we did. In a perfect world, what would be your relationship with police?
Anybody else? In a perfect world, what does a relationship between you and the police look like?
More like they work for us, less like that we setting the rules. That makes sense. That makes perfect sense.
We're not scared to call the police because, you know, if something happens to me, if they're shooting or in my house, I mean, or something, and my family's there, like, am I scared to call the police? I'd rather just go do it because they might be shooting in my house too. It's a gamble. It is.
Well, in a perfect world, the police would be doing what
Excuse me,
what they're
this is
supposed
for
to
you,
do.
so could you just, this question was for the youth to answer, so you could just respond to that, please.
I just
Thank you.
keep forgetting about that.
Thank you.
It's easy to forget.
Okay, so in a perfect world for me, what would be my relationship with police officer? Well, not specifically mine, but for everyone entirely. I don't feel like we should have police officers. We should have peace officers. In other other countries, literally America has the highest rate of police brutality and police killings, like homicides, regardless of whether the law defines police shooting people as homicide or not. That's what it is. So the perfect sort of society for that would be where we're not scared to call the police, because the police aren't going to shoot everything. They're going to sit there and talk to people. They're going to figure out what's going on. And there, in some places, in America, there are police officers like that. I've met people, I know people who are police officers, and they're good people. But there shouldn't be corruption inside of a police force. There shouldn't be people, regardless of whether this is true or not, people filling their quota, because no police officer will ever admit that there's a quota. And whether it is or not, I don't know, I'm not a police officer. But there shouldn't be even a shred of doubt about that.
Anybody else want to add to that? In a perfect world, what would a relationship between you and the police look like?
Go ahead.
I mean, maybe not perfect, but I mean, starting with, disarming police, or at least making them, have, several years of experience and good experience before they even can hold a pistol or something. I mean, people like to compare U.S. cops and British cops, but I mean, like, British cops are still pretty bad, but at least they don't all carry pistols and shoot everybody. But, don't forget Mark Logan. Like,
Teach them how to, protect themselves instead of fearing for their life.
Oh God, he was 11.
So,
Is it teach them how to protect themselves in their life?
yes, absolutely. Teach them how to protect themselves. Train them how to actually, which they are supposed to be already trained anyway, with hand in hand, and how to disarm people, and how to diffuse situations instead of escalate situations, which tends to happen a lot. Because if you talk back to a police officers, the excuse is they're only human. But you put on this badge and this suit of honor, which it should be a suit of honor. It shouldn't be something that people should be afraid of. But it gives them this power, but with great power comes great responsibility. And if we can't trust you with that responsibility, you shouldn't be in a position of power.
Well said.
Very well said.
The next question, what are some things that law enforcement already does that you like or appreciate?
I like them pulling drunk drivers, because I like to drive and on regular roads without people being drunk, hanging out the window. You know what I mean? I like regular stuff. Let's do safe driving.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
That was a good one, bro.
Yeah, life matters.
Anything else?
Yeah, probably the fact that, you can call them to tell them there's like some crazy road obstruction and they won't kill anybody, to try to remove like some blown out tire that's in the middle of the road or something. Like, they will do that, which is pretty cool. I mean, the old swervy stop traffic thing to get shit out of the road.
Does anyone else have any? I feel like I should have something. I feel like I should have something to say.
Sometimes they block the street when we protest.
Oh yeah, that's true.
So
They don't
that's if the organizer wants it, I don't know. But if the organizer, yeah, that's what they do.
Something I appreciate. I guess I can't speak for every police officer, so I guess I appreciate the fact that there are some people, whether it be a police officer or people in the military or whatever they do, that would put other people's lives first before their own. So I appreciate that. What kinds of things do you want to see law enforcement doing differently? Yeah.
We're done it. Come on, I need more than a one-word answer. I need
The last one answer was a good one.
this one, please.
Well,
they're just finding excuses to kill people. They're not protecting themselves. They're like, they just do it just because they have the power to. I'm done.
I'd like to see them learn how to defuse situations, like, in a better manner. I don't know if you guys all remember that pool party incident.
Yeah.
But that was ridiculous, seeing as it was all teenagers, and the police came and like went Rambo on everybody. Girl. Yo, I watched that video like 100 times. To be fair, he tripped. Like,
He tripped and then
turned it into a
yes, he had to, because he had to. Like, you're falling, you know, you gotta look like. I had to watch it over and over. Like, he tripped. I wanted to give, like, because at first I was like, nah, that's insane. Why did you just roll for no reason? I think it's like 007 did, but oh god.
Like, do a barrel roll and they'll just like sync the sound over it and loop in it.
But yeah, I'd like to see them diffuse situations differently, because I believe police officers should be able to handle certain things that counselors can handle, like being yelled at, being cursed at. Like, you being a human being, you have to understand, like as a police officer, your job is first to protect everyone else. That's what you signed up for. Like,
but in actuality, what's going on is they're trying to go home, so they're gonna do whatever they gotta do to go home. Either.
So how would you change that, or what would you? Is that something you would change?
Well, I would like the officer to be a lot smarter and know the law that they're actually enforcing. Because a lot of them don't even know the law. They just walk it because they told me to. So when you don't know the law, though, when you're doing this and you're breaking the law and you're supposed to be the enforcer, I would like the cops to be a little more smarter. That way, if something's happening wrong, hey, that's against the law, even though it's a police officer. And just like when that man, when the police shot the man, and he tried to throw the stun gun, and it was a black police officer right there, he could have been like, with a saved face to the police officer, would have been like, okay, I believe in the police now, even though you just stand there and you should went to jail. You should have went to jail too. That black officer that was sitting when that dude was secretly recording, that black officer should have went too. He was just as guilty. Because he didn't raise his gun. He was like, dude, hell no. Put your hands up. We'll talk about this later. Just like that. He would have saved face to the whole police, but it doesn't happen like that.
Blue collar. That blue collar.
I'd actually like to see less arrests. We have a lot of selective policing going on. You can call because you want to report a traffic accident, they will tell you that they will not respond. They're not sending an officer out. However, if they believe that there is an intimidating or suspicious looking young African-American male or female standing on a corner, they will roll 3 or 4 cars. You know, also kind of going into what this young man was saying, and this gentleman back here, is knowing the law. They should not be having to call in to their sergeant and flip through the code book to find out what they're going to arrest you for. Having more knowledge to deal with people in a psyche sense, you know, almost counselor, mentoring, coming out, peace, you know, talking to people, diffusing the situation, and going on to the next call. Everybody doesn't need to be put in handcuffs. When you talk about police racing around and hurrying up to get to here and there, well, they speed to get people to jail. You know, so they hurry up and get back out and make their next arrest.
I'd like to see the police actually conserve the working class, not just the 1%. I'd like to see the police officers that say that they're good people, I'd like to see those ones speak out against their brothers in blue. I'd like for them to protect the person that's being killed by his brother in blue. I'd like for him to interfere. I'd like for him to speak out against his entire corrupt system, or his entire corrupt, institutionally racist police system. I'd like for all those good cops to come out and speak up and speak out. And I'd like for them to actually do their job and protect and serve all the people, not just the 1%, not just all the people with all the money.
I love that answer. For the good ones to come out and speak, like that's the number one thing they can do that can implement change. It's for the good people. The good people to come out. So, like that.
Anybody else under 30 that wants to answer that?
Right. So the next question. What do you think some of the reasons are for the current relationship between communities and law enforcement?
Under 30.
I'm only a couple years old.
9 times out of 10, the officer ain't even from you. Don't even live close around. They live somewhere west Bubblefuck. Don't even know the community, don't know the people. They just know the crackheads and the dope dealers because they deal with them every day. So I think, you know, they should live in the community, like know what's going on, because who are you?
Yeah.
I mean, on that point, like, I remember when Oscar Grant, you know, he got killed and all that, and then there was a trial for Johannes Messerly. It was held in Walnut Creek, and I learned then that all the cops that work for most of the Bay Area are from Walnut Creek, which is bougie as hell. Like, they have Fuddruckers and stuff. It's like, I haven't seen that anywhere else in the Bay. I don't know. So,
Can you repeat the question?
What do you think some of the reasons are for the current relationship between communities and law enforcement?
Maybe like their preconceived notions of like race, you know, when it comes to Black people or Hispanics, like they automatically kind of assume who we are, so they just go off of that.
Any other answers why you think some of the reasons are for the relationship as it is now between police and the community?
You know, TV, what's shown, you know, I mean, what's what we see, and just like she said, you like for the good cops. To me, all cops are bad, because even if you're a good cop and you know some shit is going on, you just as guilty. Just if I was with some people that was robbing and I wasn't part of that, but I was dressing like them, looking like them, hair braided like them, and all whatever, I'm guilty of association.
Yeah.
So why is it?
It works two ways, right?
Just plainly institutionalized racism, and then not realizing how they fit within that piece as far as what is their responsibility in protecting, like she said, the 1%, and making sure that the communities not only stay in their place, but we stay, you know, routinely divided amongst, you know, Black, brown, white, you know, poor, working class, middle class, just making sure that that divide, you know, stays there.
Anyone else?
Under 30? Still under 30?
Yeah, it's still under 30. At the end, we'll answer questions, or if you can, you know, if we have time, we'll let more people speak out if they want to say. No one else though?
Yeah. One of the reasons that the relationship is how it is because the fact of the matter is people, us, not necessarily us in this room, but we the people, aren't as active and we don't voice how we feel more. Like there's a select group of people and the few are fighting the few with all the money, power. When you have a little group of people fighting another little group of people, but those group of people got guns, it's kind of hard to, you know. Yeah. We need more people. And all right, let's this last question. Is your current reality or is this your vision? So, so this is your current reality and this is your vision. How do you want things to be? How would you get from point A to point B? How would you want to change? How would you see change?
Well, I guess with me, I was son, so mine started with my son. If we want to be a police officer, cool. But best believe I'm gonna train him, and before he let the people get in his mind, right is right, wrong is wrong, son. No matter how much money they give you, and no matter how you think they're your brothers, right is right, wrong is wrong. So I guess that's how I would. If you want to be a police officer, cool. Even though I ain't gonna do it, never. But if you want to do it, cool. But he gotta be prepared for that mentally, because for that brainwashing that's gonna happen.
So how do you think? So we know how it is and what we want it to be like. How do you think we can get from here to there?
Like I said, I want to train my son. There's nothing I can tell people this and tell this, but my son is in my face.
So teach your kids.
So teach your kids. Teach your kids. That's all you can do. I mean, you can tell people this and tell people that. If they're not ready to change in their heart, then there's nothing you just talking to a wall. But your kids or people that look up to you, you got their attention. Like these rappers have people talking. Man, we listen to them all day, every day. Like they got the most influence. So
I say something to that real quick. You know, in Cleveland, there was a rapper Kendrick Lamar, and they was arresting the dude.
Right.
The Black Lives Matter came out. They started singing Kendrick Lamar when they was arresting him. So I was back when he was saying.
Sure.
Took the lyrics and made it a chant. Right, man.
We're gonna be all right. Anybody else? What do you? Anybody have any ideas on how to get from point A to point B?
Pretty much, and this is gonna sound radical, and it's nothing short of pretty much like a working class revolution. And when I say that, I'm not trying to romanticize that work. I truly mean that, such as the Cuban Revolution, and pretty much we have a restructuring. We have the removal of one political and economic system and replacing it with another political and economic system, i.e., working class people. And because when you look at police brutality, it's so ingrained in this society. It's part of the fabric. It's the protector of this society. And so even if we replace every single white officer with a black officer, it's going to get the black officer beating up African Americans, Latinos beating up Latinos. And so it has to be a complete removal of that idea, our current idea of what a police department is, and replacing it with something else. And to do that, which is why I say to have be sort of working class revolution. To do that requires a working class revolution to even begin to restructuring the police on the level that we need to.
So kind of just to add on to what Mona just said. So the police force, that's a system. That's a system. It's part of the capitalist system. So the police work in reality to protect the state. The military works in reality to protect the state and to get resources, to go overseas and to get those resources and to cover it up and say that they're really protecting the US. So all these systems of oppression that were created, racism, classism, sexism, homophobia, transphobia, how workers get paid such low wages, but the owners literally capitalize and make billions and billions. All of these different systems of oppression, they are all connected through the system. So, like Damon said, in order to change, to really receive change, I mean, we can go through reforms, but as we've seen, body cameras. What happened with that? The man in Cincinnati, it was on camera, nothing happened. Eric Garner, that was on camera, nothing happened. There's always loopholes in this system to these reforms that they try to make us happy with. So, again, not to romanticize the idea of revolution, because in the past we've seen Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, all of these leaders, they were all assassinated before they could get, before we could go to that stage. They all knew that it was a systematic problem. So in order to do that, we're gonna have a revolution. We're gonna have to defend ourselves against the system that is killing us.
I know, like you were saying, cause basically since Martin Luther King, we just been talking, and that haven't seemed to been happening. So the only way to get what we want is to do what they've been doing to us back. And cause Martin Luther King, he fought with his words. He died, and all he got was a street name, and that's it. And the only way we're gonna get what we need is if we fight back.
Well, Malcolm X fought back, got smacked too, so.
Right.
If enough people fight back, maybe.
Yeah.
That's gotta be the mass. It's gotta be the 99%.
One person gonna kick you off like fun.
Go ahead, man.
I think we should fight, but we should also be fighting for something. Because, when you're fighting against something, that's, you're always fighting against, but when you fight for something, then we have to find out what that for is. And that'll be more as a positive movement towards the goal that we're trying to get to. I mean, we have to realize that there is a system and we have to confront it. But you can only confront a system with a system. And until we build a system and train people to follow that system, no matter what else they may want to do, they have to follow the system, then, we can really talk about that. So it really comes down to training, every day, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and then detaching ourselves from the system that's, trying to capitalize our minds and colonize our minds on a daily basis.
So that's a militaristic standpoint, if you will?
Yes, sir.
That's right. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Don't go home. Over the past year, there have been more than 10 names that have hashtagged been what we consider to be trending. And when we get what we think is a small victory, a grand jury hearing, we go home. Right now, a young gentleman who just lost his life, Samuel DuBose, the district attorney has come out and ruled that it was, in fact, murder and pressed charges. The officer was walking the street and everybody's at home.
How did he get bail? I don't understand.
Yes. White people have money.
We are looking into smoking mirrors. Meaning we're looking in a mirror and we don't even see ourselves. That is clouded. It's vision. The vision is clouded. Like this man said, we have to know what we're fighting for, and that means we cannot go home. We will not have change. We will not get the change that we want when the marches stop. One of the things I tend to see is when they stop, or the reason they stop, is due to a holiday. Sandra Bland was killed. People were putting red, black, and green on their profile picture. July 4th rolled around. Everybody was celebrating red, white, and blue. What happened? In one day, the movement lost its steam. We have to keep saying their name. We have to keep marching. We have to keep fighting. We cannot go home.
So like he was talking about, you're fighting against a system, well, you better have a system to fight for and challenge that system. It's like, there's this thing called like dual power, where, like imagine okay, so the Panthers had the breakfast program and other social services. Well, imagine if, the Panthers, along with, say, unions and other organizations, had built their own economy, their own system within, all these different cities, to the point to where, even the state, when it wants to repress them, it's like, well, everybody already has what they need, they know how to get it, they educated, they agitated, they're organized. Why do they just take the whole damn thing? I mean, it's always build, organize, educate, agitate.
Anyone else? So, we have 5 minutes left. Does anybody want to make any statements? Anybody?
We got a few youth in here, and I think that It's just important for them to know that even us over 30s feel you, because we were there not too many years ago. So at the end of the day, I think that, you know, I came up under the Tupac generation. If Tupac said anything, I was ready to go. So I think, right now, let's do it, you know. But I think that it's just important for them to know, if you leave, we will follow, we will back you, you know. The generation before you is just as ready, but y'all are young and you're bold and you got it.
Yes.
So you gotta use it and you gotta go, you know?
That's why we're here. That's why we're here.
I don't know what the answer is, but like the lady said up there, generation. I come from the 60s generation. I was forced by desegregation, all white school in 1973, north side of town, me and my younger sister. So separate is not equal. That was my life. We lived it. But Martin Luther King, for me, you know, because I used to be really, really angry all the time for certain things. You know, single mother, being on welfare, the whole 9 yards, miseducation, and waking up to the fact that all the lies they got taught us, got thrown out of school, continuation school. Then had a rebirth, got some education, went through the military, got kicked out of the military under Don't Ask, Don't Tell for being gay, got kicked out. And it's been a long journey. But I know this, like what happened with the Tea Party, you know, they had a movement. Y'all talking about a movement, you have to roll it into something. Otherwise it's gonna die on the vine. And Martin Luther King, he affected change. He did, he really did.
I just want to say to all the young people, I'm 32. No, I'm joking. But I want to say thank you guys for coming out. I really appreciate it. We do need to listen to you guys more. You guys have a lot to say. And I don't really know how to explain it. It's just that I have a young son who's 19 and I really didn't listen as much as I should have. If I can go back, I would do things differently. So I appreciate you guys coming out and giving me and all of us insight your point of view. And just keep working for change and being the change you want to see.
I would just like to say to the youth that you want to do studies on people that have come before us. You want to think about Amilcar Cabral. You want to think about you know, some of the revolutionaries that actually led some movements and kind of study what they did. Because there was people that really put down some real work. Kwame Nkrumah, you know, you need to study the people that really put down some real work. And then as you get with your people, you guys need to start organizing along those lines to make sure that you can do that. You got to deal with politics, you got to deal with education, you got to deal with economics, you got to deal with the social aspects, and then you have to deal with spirituality too, which is going to bring the love and all that. So with those 5 power structures, then you have a way to start building. But you have to do all 5 of those. You can't just do one, because then it's like having a you know, a table with, you know, legs missing.
Right.
I just want to add to what he said. I think a lot of it starts with this young man right here being young. And like I said, you probably should start by like studying, knowing what you're talking about. Don't go by what you hear or what you hear like on the radio. Like I said, a lot of stuff affects us by what we hear and what we see. But if you step out on your own, do your own thing and study and research, I think that's probably when you start to schools, just jump out and just trying to fight for something, just like trying to be part of the crowd. A lot of people are part of the crowd, usually get in trouble. I started with black people down in Old Park, stuff like that. I was down to Red Light Creek, stuff like that. A lot of that, people understand that they're more of a community. You can't just go by, well, what's your color, you said. You just gotta go by what somebody says. If somebody treats you good, you treat them good, you go on.
Right.
Awesome. You guys, y'all an access generation, you know? And information, you guys have access to information, access to a lot of things that previous generations before y'all just didn't have or didn't know about. Look at your tools, look at your resources. Like brother said, you know, your studies start with people who study people who study you. You know, you don't have to go ahead and reinvent the wheel. You know, you have a lot of foundation to build on. You guys have access to that. I want you guys to know that's power. That's power. So let's utilize that.
Are you? say two things. Don't be a weekend activist, meaning you gotta do this day in, day out. Remember, it's a lifetime struggle. I know our generation is being perceived as having a short attention span. You gotta get over that. You gotta understand, like, you know, the wins that we do have, it's gonna be year-long struggles. And, you know, we may not see what we want, so I'm having grandkids, so we just gotta remember that. And secondly, don't follow false prophets. When I say false prophet, I don't mean a prophet in the biblical sense, but just fake activists, fake revolutionaries, people who are telling you that, you know, they're for your community when they really aren't. Because you heard the saying, you know, the revolution won't be televised, but it can be packaged and sold to. And so you can have people running around, you know, with the dashiki, with the afro, with the attitude down. I'm from the community, but they really just out and, you know, increase that paper. So there's those two things. Look out for false prophets and know that this is a lifelong struggle.
Share.
Just like anything in the streets, look out for, basically, like you said, false prophets, opportunists. Just make sure it feels right. Your intuition trusted. Anyone else? You, sir?
So y'all have to make a demand. You have to know what you want. You have to, power will not concede anything unless you demand it from it. So you gotta know what your goals are. You gotta know yourself first. Rescue, save yourself first. Make a demand system, and then I challenge you to save somebody else. Make certain one your partner, your brother, sister, somebody else, you save them so they don't get screwed up with as a false prophet or caught them drinking guns and drugs. And you know, I have family members murdered. I have members get murdered back when they're in jail. That's a dead end road. You gotta save yourself and save somebody else if you can.
Before we go,
okay, so this upcoming Sunday at 7 p.m. at Franklin and Florin, we're going to have a vigil and a speak out for Mike Brown. This 9th marks the year anniversary of his death, so we're going to have a really good vigil and speak out. So this Sunday, yep, Franklin and Florin this Sunday at 7 p.m.
Before you guys leave, there's a contact card over there, and it has some questions on it. If you guys would please feel free to answer those questions, fill out any information that you want to fill out, or leave out anything that you don't want to include. But I do want to get some input on some of the questions that are on that contact card, so if you guys could do that before you leave, and just leave it on the table. But we're wrapping it up now. So thank you so much for coming out, everybody. All of you, thank you.